Now, the International Monetary Fund has approved the fourth installment of a $12 billion loan for Egypt. This, of course, brings the total funds released to date to just over $8 billion. Now, the fund's board approved the latest $2 billion disbursement under the aid deal signed in November 2016 to support Cairo's economic reform program. The program saw Egypt impose austerity measures and phase out subsidies on many goods and services, including this month's move to hike fuel prices by as much as 50%. Electricity rates also went up by about 25%, and the IMF says Egypt is beginning to reap the benefits of the reforms and estimates the economy will grow by about 5.2% this year. Well, let's get more on this from Yasser Hakim. He joins us in Cairo. Very welcome to the show, Yasser, as always. Now, since we've seen the country implementing this IMF program, we've seen harsh austerity measures, subsidy cuts as well. Is the country now reaping the benefits from this program?
Well, Uche, not yet. I think this, according to the Egyptian president and the prime minister, should be felt next year in 2019, when there will be some changes in how the people feel on a daily basis. We're talking mainly, obviously, the fighting inflation, trying to lower prices. This is one of the plans put forth by the newly appointed Prime Minister, Mustafa Madbouli. We're talking about lower prices. We're talking about better services such as education and health, as well as creating more jobs. And that's when the people would feel there is some changes in their lives and some improvement. But it's not been felt yet because of the latest, obviously, austerity measures taking place and the cuts in subsidies, like you just said.
Now, on that note, Yasser, the IMF did mention back in May that the government should strengthen its social safety nets because of this austerity measures and, of course, subsidy cuts. Are we seeing any moves from the government in that regard?
Yes, there is a lot of effort by the government to try to relieve the burden of the low-income earners. It's a large portion of the population. There's a program called Takaful and Karama, which provides monthly allowances for more than 5 million people. This budget for it has been doubled in the new budget for 2018-2019 fiscal year. Then you've got other issues as well that the government is working on, such as increasing the subsidies on food for the poor. The cuts in subsidies on energy and other products have now been part of the money that has come out of it is put or revamped into increasing the subsidies for the poor, such as food subsidies, financial subsidies, monetary subsidies, and so forth. So this would make it allow products to be cheaper for the poor and even free of charge in many cases every month. They have a ration for that. So these are some of it. There's the health insurance law that has been ratified and should be put into action in a few months, in the fourth quarter of 2018. And this health insurance law will help very much in improving the health services to the Egyptians and those who are not able to pay for their health needs. And therefore, there is hard work on this side to relieve the burden of the austerity measures.
Well, Yasser, as Egyptians wait to reap the benefits of this program, how are we seeing this program impact confidence or Egypt's outlook in terms of confidence in the economy?
Yes, it has been a tough austerity measures and tough reforms on the people, but the reaction from the international institutions and financial institutions has been positive. The IMF has just released a report on Tuesday commending the reform plans and the results of the reform plans, that it has increased confidence in the Egyptian economy, in investments, as well as the outlook for the future. The same from institutions such as the Standard & Poor's, which have raised Egypt's ranking. And therefore, internationally, the World Bank as well is working with the Egyptian government on the reforms, and has also given positive reviews of the Egyptian economy and positive outlook for the future as well. So on paper, theoretically, as well as working with the international institutions, the feedback has been very positive.
Well, President Sisi himself seems quite confident. He says the country is on the right track. But we have seen, Yasser, some public dissent over these harsh reforms, as you mentioned. Fuel prices are expected to rise 50%, electricity rates up 25% this month. So how are we seeing this playing politically going forward?
Yes, this is the issue there. While the international community and experts are all approving of the economic reforms and the austerity measures and the results of these measures, obviously it has all had a tough burden on the Egyptians themselves. The inflationary effects of the austerity measures and so forth. There has been a raise in salaries and pensions, but it has not been enough, as many Egyptians say. But this all, as the president has been saying several times, it's inevitable. These austerity measures had to be taken at this point because the country was on the verge of bankruptcy. These measures should have been done more than 50 years ago, 40 years ago, by the predecessors, presidents and leaders before, but they were afraid to take these steps, fearing the backlash and the reaction from the public. But at the end, this action had to be taken to improve the economic situation in the country and to put the economy back on track. Obviously, the two uprisings in 2011 and 2013 has had a very negative impact, not the uprisings themselves, but the fallout from these uprisings in insecurity and obviously tourists shying away, investors shying away. All this has had a bad effect, and what the government is doing is trying to rebuild an economy, and these steps had to be taken even if there was some public anger, but on the medium term and long term, this would be for the good of the country.
Well, many thanks, Yasser, for your insights. Of course, Yasser Hakim joining us there in Cairo.